Hey, welcome to Taylor's Travels. I'm Travels, and we are here in the wonderful world, and we are flying around in our hot air balloon. We're on our way to visit our friend KIEFER Bassett, who's just finished with a wonderful design of their own. We can't wait to see it. This hot air balloon really can't go any faster. Oh, do you see that? What is that? Yeah, no, I can't quite make it out. No. In the arms of an angel, fly away with me. What? No! KIEFER! No, okay. We gotta get out of here. We gotta get out of here. Hurry, 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 hurry. Okay, go. Okay. Oh, okay. Oh. Hi. I'm gonna find the authorities. See y'all soon. We made it. Poor KIEFER. Gone too soon. Well, in memory of KIEFER, we're gonna have to celebrate his life in 2,955 subscribers. This one goes out to KIEFER. We're gonna be giving away a copy of one of the games we're covering today, Sandbag. And I don't quite know where I'm at, but I'm gonna drop this out of the hot air balloon right now. So if you want a copy of Sandbag, put in the comments any location on Earth. Here at Taylor's Travels, we are somewhere. And this, wow, the ground sounds a little closer than 1,000,000 feet below, but that has just plummeted to Earth and landed somewhere. So if you would like a copy, you gotta find it. This is a scavenger hunt. Put in a location, and the closest to the actual location where that just fell will win a copy of Sandbag. Thanks to the wonderful people at BGG Games. That's right, they sent us the two games we're covering today, Xylotar and Sandbag by Ted Alspach, Sandbag, and Chris Ray. Does that name sound familiar? It should. It's the second most covered designer on our channel. The indubitably wonderful Chris Ray. The Xylotar game is a reimplementation of Magic Trick. So, this hook, if you're unfamiliar with Xylotar, is a game where you get dealt a hand, you organize it from highest to lowest, and then you pass it to someone who has it face down. They don't know the ranks on their cards, but they know the suits, because the suits themselves are magical keynotes on the Xylotar. What's a Xylotar? What's the theme on this, you might ask? Well, we are just going to read it. It's that good of a theme. Yeah, check the timestamp on this video. We are just going to read this game's theme. It's 3 parts: the inspiration, the problem, and the tragedy. The inspiration. On July 6, 1985, young Bobby McColdsnap attended a concert in Calgary, Alberta, where he rocked out to Howard Jones's Things Can Only Get Better with 5,000 other fans. That night changed his life. Bobby went back to his home in Churchville, Manitoba, and with a new mission, he wanted to be a guitarist. The problem. Bobby was a polar bear, and the keys and knobs on guitars of the 1980s were just too small for his paws. He enlisted the help of local craftsman KIEFER Bassett. That local craftsman, that wonderful man, was tasked to create an alternative that he could operate. This new magical device would be based on both xylophone and synthesizer technology. Bobby eagerly began writing music that could be played on this new device, the Xylotar! The tragedy. Just after KIEFER delivered the prototype Xylotar to Bobby, KIEFER disappeared. In the theme of this video, that's right now. Bobby was questioned by the authorities because, well, Bobby was a polar bear. Concerned that the Canadian justice system wouldn't treat him fairly, Bobby took his Xylotar and ran off into the wilderness. Near the Arctic Circle, when the aurora borealis is brightest, you may hear classic 80s tunes echoing through the night. Well, where do you go from there? How about the other game we're covering today? Sandbag by Ted Alspach. This is one of the most versatile avoidance games ever. This is a trick avoidance game. You don't want the tricks, for the most part. Some tricks might be good, but for the most part, you don't want tricks. And you will be passing cards, offering cards to be taken out of your hand. You'll be discarding cards. You'll be swapping cards from your hand into players' piles, in a way. There is so much you can do to mitigate it, but someone's gonna have to take the trick, because it's still a trick avoidance game. That's the hook to this one. We're going to be covering them both. But again, bias, huge bias. They sent me these games, and they sent me the copy of Sandbag that definitely isn't this one, that fell and plummeted to the ground. So, huge bias. But let's go to the table. Let's land this airplane, this balloon. Go to the table, and I'll teach you how to play. And again, if you want a copy of Sandbag, put it in the comments. And, oh my goodness gracious, we are landing this balloon in mere weeks or days. We're going to Dice Tower West in Las Vegas. Please come by. Me and the designer, Chris Ray of Xylotar, are going to be having a trick-taking room in Dice Tower West. Oh, what more could you ask for? We have tournaments, games. We're going to be having these there. Come, play them. You can play with the designer. Oh. Other surprises that will be in store. Please come. It'll be absolutely, absolutely wonderful. Without further ado, let's go to the table. I see it down there a little bit. I'll teach you how to play these games. Hey, Hot Air Balloon Taylor, I'm gonna come down to the ground now and tell you that if you know Magic Trick, the differences are that the bidding is changed. Instead of just picking one card as your bid, you actually get to pick two adjacent ones and pick one of them. The deck has changed. The deck makeup, instead of just being kind of 5 suits or 6 suits or something, I forget what Magic Trick is, 1 to whatever it was, or 0 to whatever it was, it's now a deck with, how many suits is that? 7? 8? 8 suits, and then they are ranging from 0 to 3 all the way up, adding 1 to 0 to 10. And then the biggest suit is the trump suit, so there's more trump out there. Also, the last thing is the scoring. So in Magic Trick, there was kind of like a prestige bonus and then also trying to hit your bid. In this one, you just get a point per trick, and then if you hit your bid, you get 5 more points. So much more simple. Those are the differences. So if you know it and don't want to watch the full teach. Also, the cards are thin xylophone lines, if that matters to you. And also, the theme is about a possibly guilty polar bear. Let's go to the table and teach you how to play. The deck in Xylotar is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 suits. And as you can see over here, it's 0, and then it increases as it goes up. So 0 to 3, then 4, all the way up to 10. Here we have the game almost set up for 4 players. Depending on the player count, you're going to remove some cards. Like at 3 players, you're removing the reds and the oranges. But no matter the player count, you're going to deal all the cards equally, and each player is going to get a high note card, which also has the deck makeup on the back. Now players are going to look at their cards, and they are actually going to sort them from highest to lowest. So a 9 over there, like the 1 over here, and this is actually going to be sorting it for the player to their left. And after they have it all sorted, they're going to take this high note card and put it at the back here. So let's do that for every single player, and then we'll cut to them ready. As I'm doing this right now, it's interesting to note that whenever you have a tie in the number, it doesn't matter what order you put them in. So you can put it like this, you can put it like this, doesn't quite matter. Once you have it all ready to go, you close it all up and you can pass it to the player to your left. Once everybody's been sorted and passed, now players are going to take their Xylotar and they're going to put it in front of them, high note on the left, and they're going to splay it out like this. And we are going to need more room, so I'm going to jump forward to where it's all sorted. Alrighty, here are some Xylotars that are off frame, as you can see back there. Whew, this is definitely bigger than my table. So, how the game works is, it's must follow, trick taking. The red suit is trump, but as you can see, because of the high note to the left, players know that the cards closer to the high note are higher in rank. So there's a little bit of deduction to the game. In the first round, the lead player is the player to the left of the dealer. Let's say it is the ocarina over here. They're going to lead to the first trick. The only rule is, in the very first trick, you can't lead your leftmost or your highest card. You can play any other one. So let's say they play their yellow left here. So that is a 6. They know that the yellow suit is from 0 to 8. So since they had a lower yellow over here, they know this can't be 7 or 8, that has to be 5 or lower. So they're doing a little bit of deduction in their hand. It is must follow, so coming up to this player up here, they have to play a yellow if they have it. They don't, and maybe they want to win this trick, so they're going to play a red, and that's a 4. You're going to leave gaps so you know kind of where you're playing in the trick. It's must follow, so maybe this player up here will play a yellow, and then finally this player over here will also play a yellow. So highest of the lead suit would win. It would have been this, but there's a trump card played, and if there is, it's the highest of the trump card would win. So this player over here is going to win this trick. They're just going to collect the trick. I'm going to put it off screen a little bit, maybe over here, jutting out on the side of the bed. But then the winner of the trick is going to lead to the next trick. Trick play like this is just going to happen over and over and over. But during the course of the game, players will have to bid on how many tricks they think they're going to win. So we jumped ahead a little bit. As you can tell, some players have more tricks and more cards are out of their Xylotars. After a player plays a card into the trick, but before the other person plays a card, they can, if they want to, bid on how many tricks they think they're going to take. To do so, players are going to look at 2 adjacent cards in their Xylotar. And it could be really touching, or there could be like a gap in between them. It's just any 2 adjacent. So they could look at these 2, or these 2, or these 2, you know. So say they play the 4, and then they look at these 2, and they see a 6 and a 0. So far, maybe this player hasn't taken any yet. They're going to return the 6, and then they're going to declare 0 tricks as their bid for the hand. And then play would continue. So if it was must follow, maybe this player down here just continues with the trick. And maybe they want to bid or not, they can just pass. If near the end of the hand, players have been playing cards and nobody has bid, and they come down to the point where they only have 2 cards left and they haven't bid, then when it comes to them, they're just going to have to play into the trick, you know, following suit and normal rules, and then the last card they have is going to have to flip and be their bid automatically. At the end of the round, players are going to look at how many tricks they won, and they're going to get 1 point per trick, and then they're going to check their bid and see if they hit their bid. If they didn't, they get 0 points, but if they did, maybe like in this case right here, where this player won 4 tricks, they get 5 more points. Then you're going to shuffle and redeal and do the same process 3 total rounds. For rounds 2 and 3, the lead player is actually going to be the player who's doing the worst, who has the lowest score. If it's tied, it's just clockwise from the last starting player. And then whoever has the most points at the end of those 3 rounds wins. And if it's a tie, it's any tied player who matched their bid in the last round with the fewest number of tricks. And that's how to play Xylotar. The deck in Sandbag depends on the player count. So at 4 to 6 players, you're going to have 5 suits numbered 0 through 10. You're going to remove one of the suits at 3 players. At 5 and 6 players, you're going to have 5 of these -7 rockets. At 4 players, you're actually going to use the -5 rockets, having 5 of those. And then at 3 players, you're going to remove 1 of the -5 rockets. Here we have a game of Sandbag set up partially for 3 players. So no matter the player count, you're going to shuffle up the deck and deal it out equally. And then each player is also going to get a player aid, which is going to explain swapping cards and how the trumping works. I'll take those off because that is what my job is to do. So I say partially set up is because at the start of a hand of Sandbags, players are going to be looking at their cards, and they're initially going to pass 1 card to the left and 1 card to the right. So it is an avoidance game. You don't want tricks. For the most part, I'll explain when you might want a trick, but for the most part, you really want to avoid winning a trick. So Meowth, Balloon here, they're looking at their hand. They have a lot of high cards like these 2 10s. Let's say they just pass those 2. And it's simultaneous. So they'll pass and then they'll get one from each of their opponents. I almost said partner. After the pass, players are simultaneously going to pick 3 cards from their hand to go in front of them. One of them is going to go kind of horizontal in front of them, and that's going to be one of their sandbags. This is a card that essentially just lets them lose the trick, which is great because it's an avoidance game. You don't really want to win tricks. So you're going to put that horizontally there. Then the other 2 cards are going to be their offer cards. These are going to dictate the trump for the hand, and they're also going to be points that the player is going to score for the value on the card. So let's say they put this 4 and this 7 out there. If at the end of the round no one takes these cards from them, which I'll explain in a little bit, that would be 11 points to the Meowth Balloon, which is bad. You don't want points. So maybe they put maybe a 1, a little lower, and then also, yeah, let's say this 4. Once everyone's done that, now you're going to flip your kind of offer cards. And what these cards are is they are never part of your hand anymore. They are possible to be swapped out and played by another player. But importantly, they are also what determines trump. So looking at this flow chart here, it says which color is trump? Well, most cards of any color. This is all having to do with these offer cards here. So you're going to look out and see which color has the most cards. So as you can see, it's red here because they have 2 cards. So that means the red is trump. There is swapping, like I said. So certain times the cards can get removed. So over the course of the game, maybe this 1 goes away and it's all tied. And in that case, as you can see, if it's tied, you would see the highest sum. So then it would be the 8 over here, meaning red would still be trump unless this one got removed, and then purple would be trump. And there's obviously more ties. We'll cover that later. But for now, we're about to start a hand where red is currently trump, and the leader of the first trick is the player who has the highest number in the trump suit. So that is going to be the Team Rocket player up here with the 8. So starting with the first trick and the Team Rocket, they're going to lead a card, and they don't want a trick, so they're maybe going to lead with a low purple. It's a must-follow game, so coming to the beach pin over here, they would have to play either this 4 or this 3 or this 2. And just to keep this example simple, let's just say they played the 2, and then coming to the Meowth Balloon, they are going to play the 1. There's other things they could have done, but we're going to keep the trick simple here. The Chargers pin played a 2, so they would collect the trick, and this is bad. This is 3 points here. Points are bad. You don't want points. But now they are going to lead. So like I said, there's other things you could have done. So let's say they led the 3 here. Other things that could be done, instead of following suit, so looking at their hand here, the Meowth Balloon's thinking, oh, if I play a 6, I'm going to take this trick. I don't want to take this trick. You can play one of your sandbags. Down here, all the players in the first round always start with 1 sandbag. There's ways to get more sandbags, but at any point you can always play a sandbag, so they are going to play that. This just means they're out, can't win, no matter what. So then coming to the Rocket player, they could play one of their purples. They could also sandbag if they want, or they could play this, which is a -5. You can play this whenever you want. And this is also interesting because this is -5 points. Let's say they did that, and the Chargers player is going to win this. So they're going to collect this. Those are +2 points, but this is -5 points in their score pile. So that was actually a good trick for them to win. So now you can see kind of why sometimes you might want to take a trick, but usually it's pretty bad. So getting back to the Chargers player, they're going to play another purple. So coming back to Meowth here, they're in that same position. They don't want to play this 6, so they think they're going to take it. The other thing you can do in this game is swap cards. Here is the player aid for that. It says you may swap a card in your hand with a face-up balloon card if you play first to the trick, you take a color of the lead color, or you have no cards of the lead color, or you have 1 card of the lead color, which is what we are going to do in this case. As you can see here, they have 1 card in the purple color. They are going to take this, and they are going to take this red 8, and they're going to play it into the trick, and they're going to swap it, the card in their hand, over here. So what they did essentially was now they are playing offsuit. So they're not going to win, but they
made it so the Team Rocket player, who was going to score that for 8 points, now only has a sandbag here. They're still going to score it, so that's going to be still a point, just like these in tricks, but they did help them out. And you might be wondering, why did they help them out? It's a competitive game. Well, what they did was, they changed the trump from being the red suit, because they just removed it from the calculation here, to now being the purple suit. I hope that made sense, because you always evaluate which trump every time a card gets swapped. So again, how trump works is it's the most number of cards. So since there were 2 red cards, red was trump. Red 8 just came out, so now there's only 1 red card. Since it's all tied, you look at the highest sum of the tied colors, that would be the 5 over here. So maybe the Meowth Balloon over here wanted red not to be trump because they have a ton of red in their hand, and that is why they did that. So coming to Team Rocket over here, they could swap again if they wanted to. Maybe they didn't want purple to be trump for some reason. But the tough thing is, you can't swap if after swapping you still have the suit in your hand, because it is a must-follow game. So they're not able to swap. So either they take this trick by just playing one of the cards, or again, they could play another -5. But then they're thinking, oh, that gives another -5 to the Chargers player. Let me just take it. So they're going to play the 8, take the trick, and lead to the next trick. The interesting thing about leading is you could do the swap when you lead as well, as you can see here. Swapping cards when you play first in a trick. So maybe the Team Rocket player has really high cards. Maybe they want a short suit with this yellow, and they really want blue not to be trump, so they're going to take this and play that. So it's essentially them leading with a 2 blue. So then it's must follow blue with the Chargers player. As you can see, these cards are slowly whittling away, especially if someone wants to play this from someone's hand because they don't want the Chargers person to get another -5 points. So cards can slowly be pulled and substituted as it goes. And if there's ever a situation like this, where there's no trump suit, then there's just no trump suit, and it's just highest of the lead suit. And so the game can flow like that. It also can be a situation where, as you can see here, if it's the same number of cards and they're all tied for the same sun, then there could be multiple colors that are trump suit. Last thing to explain in the trick play is about leading. You can lead a rocket if you wanted to, but the lead suit would be whatever normal balloon suit would be played after, so then it's must follow on this purple here. If everyone plays a rocket, it's the first rocket played that would win. And if everyone plays a rocket and a sandbag, in this situation, I don't know why someone would do that, but the rocket would win. The other final caveat, if someone leads a sandbag, which is totally okay to do, the next player has to play a valid face-up card. So if this is what their hand looked like, they'd have to play one of these. They can't play another sandbag if they had one. If they didn't, like if it was near the end of the round, that's just how it worked. You can do sandbag, sandbag, sandbag. In that case, these just get discarded and the person who led the trick would just lead to the trick. Again, at the end of the hand, how the scoring works is players are going to look at the 2 cards that are in front of them. If they're both face-down sandbags, they're just worth a point each, just like all the cards in the trick pile. If they're face up, they're going to score that many point value. So that's a 5 and a 1. So this player would get 6 plus their score pile. 2 over here for this player. This player over here, we get 1, but then -5, so -4. And then checking for the score pile, it's just 1 point per card, except the rocket ships, which are -5. So in this player's case, they got +1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but -10, so they actually lost 1 point, which is great. You're going to play 3 total rounds, but in between those rounds, you're going to see if someone has scored 10 or more points, and for each amount of 10 points, they're going to be able to add an extra sandbag to their hand. So say like this player over here scored 12 points. After they get their hand and they're looking at it, they'll choose 2 to go in front of them like normal, but instead of just 1 sandbag down here, they get to add another sandbag. And again, this is for every multiple of 10. So maybe the Team Rocket player got 23. They'll be able to add 3 sandbags, an original one, and then 2 for every multiple of 10, for 10 and 20. This happens in round 2 and round 3. So the worse you do, the more sandbags you get for the final rounds. At the end of the 3 rounds, whoever has the lowest score wins. And that's how to play sandbags. If there's a tie, it's the player who scored the lowest in the 3rd round. And if that's a tie, whoever scored the lowest in the 2nd round. And if that's a tie, whoever scored the lowest in the 1st round. And if that's still a tie, it says the tied players lose for wasting everyone's time figuring out how the tiebreaker works, and the next lowest player wins. And that's how to play Sandbags.
So that is Sandbag and Xylotar. Let's talk about Sandbags first. Again, though, take this with a grain of salt. I was sent these copies. Sandbag is an avoidance game to the nth degree. I want to be very clear. There are so many ways to mitigate your hand and so many things you can do in this game that it is wild. I think this is complexity levels of Cat in the Box, where you are like, okay, there's a lot going on in this system, and how do I take advantage of everything that's going on to win, as you do in most games. But so, in Sandbag, you can pass cards. You can discard a card effectively, like turn a card into like a sandbag. You can offer 2 cards, but that's also what trump is, so you have to think about that. You have the -5s, which are like free, you'll get out of the trick, but also you're giving points to other players. So there's passing. Might have even said that at the start. I forgot, because there is so much you can do in this game. I think the fact that you can do so much is wild in an avoidance game. I, again, have never seen a trick avoidance game with so much going on, so many moving parts and so many options for the players. Like, even after 2 hands, my first 2 hands of this game, first 2 games of this game, I wasn't 100% sure on just even understanding what to do for the strategy. So, for example, in Hearts, there's a wonderful depth of strategy there, for sure. But you can understand pretty quickly. You're like, okay, I don't want hearts, or I want all the hearts. But then there's some nuance on like what you pass, when you go for shooting the moon, and things like that. In this one, though, even just the option of like what do you put in front of yourself as the offer, right? You want to entice players, but also it's trump, so you want to put cards in there that short suit yourself, and then hopefully, if you can't short suit yourself, you are at least putting in cards that is trump that helps you. And then also, when you take offer cards, you want to time it from being short suited, and you also want to manipulate that to be trump for you. Manipulate the trump system in the right time. And then the sandbagging, especially if you have a ton of points, because there's a catch-up mechanism to the game. When do you sandbag? When do you give away points? Do you put the rocket in front of you because it's minus points for you? Someone's going to take it then, but is that good? It's so wild. There's so many considerations to the game, and I think it changes what you do, for sure, on what players do. Like, are you notice someone holding a lot of rockets in their hand? Is that just like what kind of person they are? So you can kind of play off that. Maybe I actually want to win more tricks, not a lot, obviously, than I wouldn't. I think there's so many things that are going on that players have a lot. The fact that this is such a wild thing, that the trump can change mid-trick is so interesting. There's moments where I want to do that. I want to like take an offer, but I know that sometimes the card that I'll take is going to stay trump, the suit. So I'm like, oh, well, I'll always win. Maybe I'll just pay attention to that when a rocket comes out, which I've totally done. There's so many things you can do. I think there's certain player counts that I like more. What's interesting, though, is that this does play well at 5 and 6, which is rare air. Pun on the fact that it's about hot air balloons. For a trick-taking game. But also, I do think I personally like it most on those player counts where the rockets are the most valuable for the trick, if that makes sense. So, for example, at 3 players, there's only 2 other cards if a rocket gets played. So then that's 2 points, which are bad, and then a minus point, 5 points, which is good. So then that makes it a rocket trick, if there's just 1 in there. It's worth minus 3 points, which is good. But at 4 players, there's 3
Sandbag, or like 3 kind of bad cards in there, and then 1 rocket. So it makes it a little bit less. So I think I like it the most at 3 and then 5, because 5 does the same thing, where 5 takes advantage the most of the math, where it's -7 now. So there's 4 of the cards and then the -7, so it's actually worth 3 points. And I kind of like the idea behind a trick avoidance game where some tricks are good. And I think at 4 and 6, which totally works, it just has that moment where, oh, I want a rocket, but it's not as good. And it's weird to say this when it's really just a point off. And it's also not as good for every player, so it's balanced. But I do like that idea of having the rockets be a little bit more valued at the like cut under player count, if that makes sense. So I love this most at 5 and 3, even though, 4 and 6 is completely fine. The interesting thing as well is a trick-taking game that players can choose when it goes to no trump. Absolutely wild. It's super interesting on how players can choose when it becomes no trump. I have never seen that in the game, but like kind of deteriorating trump is a fascinating system, and when to play off that when you might think you're going to win if you have a lot of the trump suit. There's just a lot to consider in the game. Again, passing, you're discarding kind of 3 in a way. So there's a lot of hand mitigation, especially if you lose and are doing poorly. I've seen players in round 2 and 3 be able to put, 2 or 3 sandbags down, so they're essentially fine. I think the only hiccups of the game, there are a lot there's a lot of things to consider. There's a lot of moving parts. Again, I think this is closer to like Cat in the Box or around their complexity, because if I showed this as an intro avoidance game to someone, that's going to be tough, because there's just so many things to do. I think a good beginner game has less intro to the trick play, where you can just like get to the trick play and kind of show how trick taking game goes. And this one, again, passing, offering, discarding, that type of idea. I think that offering choice is really fun. You get that idea of like, do I want to put high thing there because it gets a high card out of my hand, but then I'm taking those points. So it's just like, ugh. And the fact that putting the minuses there is good if no one takes it, but like someone's definitely going to take it. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a rocket last to the end. But I think there's like a healthy dose of each hand feels different, because there's so many things to consider, that Sandbag has always landed. I think only cons I have are, again, it takes a little bit of your head to wrap around. I think there's some rules that are tough to grok. I know they have the player aids for both the swapping cards and the which colors trump. Which colors trump's not too bad. You just look out there. If it's a tie of cards, you sum, tie sum, it's multiple trump. That's not too bad. I think swapping cards and the kind of flow of being short-suited is a little bit tough. That's the hardest, that's the toughest thorn, the sharpest thorn on the teach and the remembering of the teach that I found in the game, is like, okay, I can do it if I'm short-suited, but I can also always just like play a sandbag. But if I do want to swap, I have to be short-suited, or that had to have been the last card in my hand when I do it. It kind of makes sense when you play with trick takers. Like, I've played with like trick taking people, and it totally makes sense. People are like, oh, well, I have to be short-suited when I play. But if someone isn't like 100% in the rules of a trick taking game, that one's a little tough to teach. But overall, I think Sandbag is one of the wildest instances of an avoidance game, because you can do so much to move around your hand, whether that's offering, passing, or discarding, that, or swapping, that players just have a wild amount of things that they can do to mitigate maybe a bad hand. Because a lot of avoidance games are like, oh, I just took a lot of tricks that had a bad hand. But in this one, it's like, half my hand's yours and on the ground, and I passed it over to you, and I'm swapping half my hand. Yeah. What is your hand in this game? Really cool stuff. I gotta love when games have a little bit of humor in the art. And the art itself, growing balloons, which is great, and the symbols are great, and I think the iconography, everything on there is wonderful, and even the back, you know, being sandbags, and it's fun to have like, it's not multi-use cards, but like the back of the card being like playable and like counting for points and things like that. Kind of reminds me of like the green Fibro. But I love that the art, the higher the number, the more sandbags are on the balloon, so it's like it's weighing it down, right? Which is a good thought of like you want to go up, so the higher number of sandbags means it's weighing you down because high numbers are bad. So that's a fun kind of like mental thematic logic. But also the fact that the rockets are like blowing, those are sandbags just like just blowing up. That's a fun little bit of humor. I love that. That is Sandbag. Great stuff, but know what you're getting in for because there's a lot of levers you can pull in this one. Xylotar! Xylotar. Ooh! So we covered Chris Ray's magic trick on the channel before, and a lot of people might be wondering what the differences are. I cover them to teach, but also I think it does some things well for what I think when you take a game like Magic Trick and you want it to be easier to get into and a bit more streamlined for audiences. So the big two differences where you have bidding where it's just a point per trick and 5 points if you hit your bid. I like it. It's simple. I think there's a tough thing where classic complaint. If it's a point per trick, then if you just have a better hand, you're going to get more points. And that's always just like, oh, I randomly got a better hand, or that person got a randomly better hand. That stinks. But I think the nice thing is hitting your bid is 5 points. So it is the mountain, the lion's share or the bear's share of the points you would get in a given round. But also it's interesting that you could incentivize bidding higher. And so players kind of push their luck a little bit more to sometimes shoot themselves in the foot. But incentivizing a higher bid makes it so players might try to get more tricks and might try to mess up their bid a little bit more. And it actually seems a little bit like, because they moved the deck from, I think it was like 6 suits or something, and it was the same number, to being a bunch of different suits and all having like asymmetric rank on them. To that also fuzzes the bid a little bit. It's interesting to have all the same numbers in front of you and trying to deduce it, but being like, oh wait, that suit specifically is like a little bit shorter, so it ends at that number instead. So I think there's some incentives in the bidding and then also some fuzz in the deck that pushes players a little out of their comfort zone. But then I think they pull them back into kind of a leniency with the fact that you can look at 2 and then pick 1, as opposed to in Magic Trick where you can only hopefully know your number and pick that one as your bid. So I think there's a mix of probably making it more easy to get into the game or more friendly, and then pulling it like with the leniency and like a little bit more simple scoring, and then pulling it back with the fuzz of the deck and also the fact that, you know, maybe you're pushing players to win more tricks than maybe they're expecting. I think also the theme, oh man, this theme is one of the best themes ever. Way to take trick-taking, deduction, you know, numbers on cards game and turn it into not only the fact that in front of you you have now a xylophone guitar that looks great on the table because you have all these different color, what's that called? Metal plates that you hit on? I don't know. Not only do you have all these wonderful kind of rainbows in front of players, which just looks great, but also the cards themselves are shaped like it, but also these cards just allow for easily one of the best themes ever. I can't believe this is in print. The fact that it says the inspiration, the problem, and the tragedy, and that Bobby was concerned about the Canadian justice system treating him fairly. One of the funniest, as I just said, I love comedy in games, and this is easily one of the funniest themes ever. And just a game with numbers and suits. Like kudos to Bezier. What a wonderful way to make just like a, you know, trick-taking card game with deduction stuff to have easily one of the best themes ever. I think it's a sign of how amazing a wonderful, unique new theme can be for a game when, as you're playing hands, players are like, oh, what should I play? What should I play? And then people are just like, do you think the polar bear did it? You know?
What a wonderful, wonderful theme. And what a wonderful game. So, Xylotar, Sandbag. Definitely check these out. Again, huge bias. But I hope, you know, the thoughts on Magic Trick before and even just the play of the games show you whether these sound like you would like them. Thank you so much. And again, let me know where I dropped the other copy of Sandbag. I hope you're close. Going to be GeoGuessr. And thank you again so much. 2955. Whew! That is wild. And if you've made it this far, let's just say I am very excited for March. You'll find out why. Thanks so much. Bye.